ahead then.
November 10th.
All right, it is 9 o'clock. Let's call this Marion County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Roll call.
Keisha Johnner,
Here.
Mark Ramey,
Here.
Steve McCollum.
Here.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for this morning's agenda.
Make a motion, we approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Jake, any communications received by your office?
There were two that have been forwarded to you guys. These are some time ago, so you may have forgotten via email. One was from the city of Pella regarding their proposed voluntary annexation. And the second one was from the city of Knoxville regarding proposed Knoxville Park Lane urban renewal area amendment. It was just notices for meetings. So
Okay. Very good.
those were the same two that were forwarded to you earlier.
Yep, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Next item is public comments. It's the portion of our meeting where the public can speak on items not on this morning's agenda. Are there any public comments, items not on this morning's agenda?
Do you see, have anything in the chat box at all, Emily?
Just want to make sure our technology here. Not seeing any.
Okay.
Are you seeing any, Emily? No? All right. We'll move on. I'll entertain a motion for this morning's consent agenda.
Make motion, we approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Very good. On to business. First, we have Resolution 2020-75, which is a resolution directing the acceptance of a proposal to purchase $4.665 million general obligation capital loan notes. Michael, I see you're on with us this morning.
Yes, I am. I'm going to share a couple slides with you. If it works here with the joys of technology, let me know if that's coming through or not for you.
You bet. Thank you.
Just an overview today. This is really the final result of a process that I know has been discussed by the board in some detail. I'm not going to go through every single step, but just a little refresher for folks. The county is issuing general obligation bonds. That's going to be the lowest financing option from a cost standpoint that would be available to the county. In Iowa, as we've discussed in the past, the state limits you to 5% of actual valuation. That debt limit's about $141 million for the county. Prior to this issue, the county only has $1.365 million outstanding, so nearly $140 million of capacity. The reason for this and the authority for issuing the bonds from the public hearing was based on the concept of urban renewal or tax increment financing. This is related to the Pella residential housing project. In addition to the standard 10-year life that was secured for a 15-year period with the blessing from the school and the other overlapping tax districts. With that 15-year concept in mind, the financing is also repaid over a 15-year term. So that's just kind of a basic overview of what we were working to do under the framework. In terms of the actual considerations for the Pella Workforce Housing Project, this content here is consistent with what's been previously discussed. As you know, the county is assisting with up to $4.7 million of this total. So that's what the bond proceeds will be using. What we'll be using the bond proceeds for.
Have you tried to share your screen yet? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, it says it's up there right now. Is it coming through or is it not?
No. So I have it pulled up on my end also.
Cool.
So I don't know which slide you're on so far, but
4. Why don't you pop to 4 and we can jump in there.
can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, so am I on the right page?
Yes.
Okay, now down to 4 I go. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. You're all good. You're all good. And now it's coming through on a different slide. That's okay. Hang on a second here. I see the PowerPoint with the background. Is that what's on view as well?
Hang on a second. There you go, how about that?
There we go. Excellent, thank you.
Sorry.
No worries. So this content is what we'd reviewed in the winter with the board regarding the proposed Prairie Ridge development for Pella Workforce Housing. The $4.7 million of county support for infrastructure repayment is what the proceeds of this bond issue will be used for. As we talked about, TIF is all about delayed gratification. So initially, the debt will be repaid at least in part by the debt service levy tax revenues. However, over time, tax and TIF revenues, including some from LMI funds, will be the benefit back to the county. Now, the last main bullet there, the projected break even is the key. At the county's direction, we used some conservative numbers during the planning process for the Pella Workforce Housing Project. That break even was around $6 million for our analysis. I think we felt that would be a little bit conservative. I don't think we would have foreseen where rates ultimately landed. The break even, rather than that $6 million number we discussed, is actually going to be about $5.3 million here. Any benefit beyond that $5.3 million is the ROI back to the county on this. And as we talked about, there's a minimum of $1.6 million in the form of those LMI funds. That's the real key to this concept here, that the county is going to be able to deploy throughout the county, not just a limit to Pella. I wanted to pause there because I think that was an important factor that the board's reviewed before. Make sure everyone's consistent here, answer any questions on this before getting into the more bond-specific results today. Board members, any comments here on this item?
Yeah, Michael, just a couple of questions. We may have covered this in previous meetings, but for the LMI dollars, number one, when do we begin to account for those dollars, and do we need to segregate those dollars from an accounting perspective?
That's a great question, Mark. Correct. The LMI dollars and the TIF dollars aren't theoretically any different in terms of timing, right? You just have an LMI sit aside of those dollars. So when new valuation is realized by the city of Pella, whether that's I know they've gotten off to a good start, but I don't know if that's going to be January 1, 21 or January 1, 22 rolls, either in fiscal 22 or fiscal 23, when those dollars start coming in. Each year when those distributions are made, the percentage related to LMI needs to be segregated within the county's funds to make sure that those are restricted for that use. Now, you receive those LMI dollars and you can build them up over time. They do not need to be deployed immediately in the way that we normally think about TIF dollars needing to be deployed to pay down debt on an annual basis. So that LMI funds that are received each year can build up over time, can be deployed annually, or can be deployed all at once later for a larger project or a couple larger projects. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, excellent, Michael. And then I have one more follow-up on that. So in the private sector, when we think of receivables, you can sometimes account for those receivables prior to receiving them in terms of your valuations. That's how companies get market cap, et cetera, that type of thing, or when they're figuring that. Can a government entity do that as well? In other words, can we project we're receiving X and use that for future borrowing capacity, or to reduce so we can then go and have future borrowing capacity? Or do you have to wait for dollars to come in? Is it just cash in, cash out?
Yeah, I think there's two factors there, Mark. One, you're not going to end up being able to book those future revenues from TIF or LMI as kind of receivables as we might think of it from the corporate sector. That being said, we can absolutely budget off of those projections coming in the future. Okay. Now, as you know, I did an analysis, Mr. Nardini from the city of Pella did an analysis projecting out what we think Prairie Ridge will do over the next 15 years.
Right.
And that's the basis for some of this analysis. Now, the LMI dollars are a minimum that have to be recovered because it's based on the infrastructure cost. The LMI percentage is based on that. So that 1.6 million has to come out. It's capped there, though. The TIF dollars, if we get things to go better than expected or get more just organic valuation growth, those TIF dollars may be more in an upside scenario, or if things are slower than expected, may be less than that value. So that $5.3 million break even really is about when we get more than 5.3 million total between TIF and LMI dollars, that's kind of gravy and can be applied to other projects, other infrastructure, other financing, to your later point.
Okay.
In terms of those revenue streams, the data that we use to model that is as good as the inputs that we're putting in, right? So if we have a good understanding of the type of properties coming on and the timing is close to what we're projecting, yeah, that revenue stream is something that you can further leverage. If we don't have good analysis, if the timing's off, if the type of properties being built change, then you're going to have a different scenario. The key here is it's not just this revenue stream, right? The county is pledging other revenues to help support this, and we know the TIF revenues will be deferred. So as those come in, if better than expected, yes, the county would have capacity to do more with those dollars than projected today. Maybe long-winded, but I wanted to be thorough in that response for you.
No, I appreciate that, Michael. And then my last point is, so tonight we're having our joint meeting with the city of Knoxville to discuss the VA. So our next major project will be working on the VA property. Some of these same concepts will come into play when we do that project as well. So just for the board, as we think about this, especially for this evening and begin that process, Michael, will you be available at all this evening to listen in?
Yeah, I'm planning to participate electronically. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to, after this meeting, I've got some information I want to send to you to get your thoughts on.
Absolutely. That's a good segue. If there's no other questions here to kind of the impact analysis that I know the board members wanted to review in the winter, but I'll pause before jumping in and see if there are any other questions at this time.
Steve?
Yeah, Michael, the LMI funds were a key factor for me in getting on board with this to begin with. Will those dollars be discretionary dollars for the county to use? I mean, obviously we can use them elsewhere in the county, but are they project specific that can only be applied to certain projects?
Sure, that's a really good question. So let's separate the two revenue streams there, right? The regular, I'm calling it the regular non-LMI TIF dollars, are going to be restricted to what we're doing within that TIF area. So that would be the City, County, Prairie Ridge TIF area. That's the TIF dollars. It is expected that those will likely get close to covering in arrears the total debt payments on this over 15 years. That's one piece. The LMI funds are unrestricted from a geographical standpoint. So you can spend those LMI dollars. That's kind of where your return on investment's kind of coming from here. That can be spent anywhere throughout the county for eligible LMI projects. Now,
okay,
there's some guidance on those LMI projects, but you're probably limited to the creativity of the county in determining the need to deploy those funds.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That was my point to my question.
Very good, great question.
And I think there are good examples from around the state. You can be thoughtful. I know there's been some discussion on that, but I think you can be thoughtful about what those projects may be throughout the rest of your county, and working with your legal guidance on that. I think there's ways to get there to really help support important initiatives. Again, it's something that as those dollars become to be built up, the county can really turn their attention at what's the best way to deploy them
Yeah,
throughout the
I would
community.
definitely like to see those funds help other parts of the county become economically viable.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very good. Very good. Great question, Steve. Michael, thank you for that explanation. Please proceed.
Sure. I'm going to continue to reference this on this next slide that's up on the screen right now, slide 5, as the worst case scenario, because that's how we've evaluated things as the county. I know at the last meeting, Mr. Nardini from Pella had shared some of the really strong progress here, and I know it's gone well. Development and the infrastructure is in, and then expected that the housing starts are going to continue in earnest. So I appreciate that things are on a good track. I'm not suggesting anything otherwise. I just wanted to have an apples to apples comparison from when this was a concept versus when it's reality of infrastructure that we're going to be reimbursing. So with that in mind, I talked about the debt service levy impact on this back in the winter when we reviewed a number of scenarios. Again, we were what we thought relatively conservative with those analyses intentionally. However, rates have been a bit stronger than I think we would have expected. So that levy impact here is a little bit less, about $12.43 per year per $100,000 of residential assessed valuation. Just if you work that out, it's about a dollar per month would be the impact there on a residential valuation of $100,000. So, that's the worst case if no valuation is created from the property. Again, I know our expectations are much stronger than that. We've talked a little bit about the return on the investment for the county, and I want to be clear. Look, TIF is delayed gratification, right? The valuation comes in, it's the subsequent fiscal year where those dollars are actually received and realized by the county. So yes, over the 15-year period, we expect a positive return for the county from that between the TIF and LMI funds. That's just what we're quantifying kind of inside the cash flow analysis. The other pieces here I know are the priorities that both the county and the city have looked at, which is one, additional economic spending within the community because of the workforce housing, and a hope for additional investment and growth within the county due to this housing. The workforce housing study and that initiative has been, well reviewed. I'm not going to go through that ground further, but I want to be clear as we're framing this up on the net benefit and why we're doing what we're doing. I'll pause there before wrapping up on the bonds themselves. And any other questions here at this time?
No, I have none. We've hashed this out many times.
Yeah, that's why I thought today would be just a refresher, relatively straightforward. So let's talk about the news and the bond results here. So the final par amount was $4,685,000. There was some net premium there. So yes, there's $4.7 million of proceeds that will be coming out. I told you we'd be expecting a AA category rating at the last meeting. Later that week, we did get a confirmation that the county was rated AA3 by Moody's Investors Service. To be clear, this is the 4th highest possible rating. That being said, our feedback from the analysts, and this is consistent with our understanding working with other counties and cities across the state, the only real limitation here is the tax base. We're under that $3 billion number. That's a really good size for Iowa, but on a national scale, that was really the only limiting factor here. The things that the county and staff can control that are being controlled are going very well. And it was a very favorable report. I would encourage you all to read the Moody's report in your free time if you get a chance. I think it reflects well on the management of the county overall. In terms of the actual details on the bonds, true interest cost, or TIC, is kind of our equivalent for APR in the bond world. The interest rates are different by each year, so they're serialized maturities. This is the best representation of that. The true interest cost here was 1.424% for the 15-year term. That's pretty darn good. As I mentioned before, it had been tough for us to run our conservative projections assuming as much. And that's the big reason for the more favorable results than maybe what we analyzed last winter. Again, we'll have principal start to be paid in fiscal 22 on this. The first interest payment will be June 1 of this upcoming year, but we'll have that interest capitalized from proceeds from the bonds just to help with the budgeting purposes. So the first time this will hit the budget will be for the fiscal 22 budget planning work that you start doing here shortly. And the bonds will be paid in full in June of 2035. We'll get everything worked through and go through the final timeline here, but you'll have everything deposited on December 10th here in a few weeks. Any questions here before just revisiting the final timeline, and then I'll get out of your hair for this morning?
Yes.
No, thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you for breaking this all down for us.
Yeah, last piece here. Today locks the interest rates and the terms of the financing. The note purchase agreement has been reviewed with your bond counsel at Allers and Cooney. So just updated with the final rates from the final numbers provided yesterday. You'll get a nice hearty stack of paperwork for your November 24th meeting. You like to give the attorneys a couple weeks to get all the final details through all the tax documents and loan agreements that you'll have to sign for the meeting on the 24th. That is more of an administrative item than anything. No changes in terms of the financing for between now and the 24th. Today's action would kind of wrap things up from there. And then there's no meeting necessary for closing on December 10th. We'll be delivering note proceeds to the account of the county's choosing for the 4.7 million and change of proceeds. We'll also make sure all issuance costs are paid at closing and go from there. So near the finish line, I know it's been a good amount of planning and effort here. This is just the execution successfully, I would say, on the county's part to get this to the finish line. So with that, I'll wrap up. I just want to give a shout out to staff. I appreciate it's been a busy time. Jake especially kind of having to play point guard between me, the attorneys, the rating agencies, et cetera. We all know it's been a busy season with the election. So on top of this, with grace and efficiency, I just want to thank Jake for all his work.
Very good. Yes, thank you, Jake.
I agree.
Thank you. Absolutely. I agree, staff. Michael, thank you for all of your guidance during this process. It's been outstanding.
Absolutely.
Helped us understand, and we have another major project coming that we'll begin talking about tonight. And again, just high level, we've talked about this in many meetings, but just so again, it's on the record, this is an opportunity for Marion County to get involved in a more material way in the economic future of our county as we partner with different municipalities, as we look for things in our unincorporated areas. Steve, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's incumbent on us to be looking for ways to improve the opportunities for prosperity within our county. And this is a great opportunity to do that, partnering with Pella. We'll have another discussion tonight on the VA with Knoxville. So very excited, very proud of this board. Jake, all your assistance. And then Michael, thank you for your guidance. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, I would entertain a motion on this resolution.
Make motion to approve resolution 2020-75.
Second.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. Then
Thanks,
Michael,
folks. Jake, let's use 9:23 for the timestamp. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to item number 2, Greater Des Moines Partnership, Regional Broadband Steering Committee. We had this discussion last meeting, I believe. The committee, is there anybody on representing this group?
I don't know if there is.
Don't think so? Okay.
My son.
So I think it's really up to a decision point for the board to determine being a part of this. I think we generally agreed it was something we wanted to be involved in, and then getting somebody to serve on that steering committee. Do we have any suggestions?
Well, I had a couple of come up before me and ask and inquiring about it. Wanted to ask Carla, from Mike, do you know if it's 1 or 2, or just do you know?
I think you can do 2.
Okay.
From his comments, I think that was acceptable.
Okay.
The good news is we already have 2 from the county already on the steering committee, so
Okay.
that would give us some really good.
Okay. So explain the 2 and what you're talking about, meaning like.
There's someone from Vermeer, a gentleman from Vermeer, and there's a gentleman from Knoxville School District already
Okay.
on the steering committee that were on there when they initiated it.
Okay, so we can go with them currently, or we can appoint
No,
another.
you're
Okay.
to appoint somebody else. Those
Okay.
were the ones chosen by the partnership.
Okay, so now in turn we can pick one or two people.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So the people that had contacted me, and I wanted to ask the board if they'd had others. I had Michael Kakmarinsky contact me. He was interested. He is on a couple other boards. He's on our ECI board that I'm also on, and then he's on a commission board with Missy. He is a PC specialist. And where he currently, why he was interested is his house doesn't get what the FCC defines, and so he had interest. He had reached out. The other person that reached out to me was Barb Kniff, who is also on our economic development board. But Barb owns KLK, which is, for those that don't know, is a utility construction company that markets that and puts utilities in. So those were the two that come before. I wanted to know if either of you had anybody, and if
No,
not,
didn't
then
have
we can
anybody-
discuss this.
Not to me, nobody expressed any interest. Steve?
No, nobody.
Okay.
So, and I believe this was a $9,000 commitment, Jake, am I remembering that right?
I feel it was in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
9,100.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
I don't think we got a bill yet, or I don't think.
No,
it's-
and to clarify, that's up to that amount. They are applying for grants.
That could reduce that.
So that could reduce that potentially.
Okay, but we would have to commit at a minimum.
Yeah,
to
I
that.
think they're looking at they commit, and then if grants come in, then
Right.
counties would get reimbursed by.
So I think we agreed as a board that it is a very important issue. When you think about what we're doing in Pella, when we're doing these development projects, we're thinking about infrastructure, right? Well, broadband is a key component of infrastructure, and it needs to be done in the right way. It's not just about getting better Netflix or getting a less delay on your Facebook post. It's about attracting businesses here, especially preparing for a 5G world, and that's what's critical about this. So businesses can compete in that modern world. So Keisha, I have no objections if those are the two individuals you want to put forward for the committee. I don't have any objections to that, and you can make that motion.
Do you want to appoint two, or do you just want to appoint one?
If both are interested, and we
Yeah,
can have two,
I
I would say
I think so
All right,
too.
just want to make sure.
better than one.
Okay, yep, nope. I'll make the motion that we appoint Michael Kakmarinsky and Barb Kniff.
Second.
We have a motion and support. Let Jake catch up.
Do you need to know how to spell Michael
See, with the mask,
Kakmarinsky?
I can't tell,
It's-
Jake.
I know.
can't tell.
It's-
like-
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No, I got-
KAC.
Yeah, I can find.
Do you want me to spell it for you? Okay, all right, I can.
All right, so we had a motion by Johnner and a second by McCombs.
That is correct.
All right, very good. McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
And just a clarification, Barb's name is Barb Kniff McCullough.
It is, yes, correct.
Very good, thank you. All right. Item number 3, updates. Steve?
Well, I've been kind of incognito. But, I really don't have anything that's, no.
All right, very good, thank you. Glad you're back. Glad you're well. Keisha?
I don't have any this time.
All right, very good. And the only update I have, and we've already talked about it, is just our meeting tonight with the city
Will that
council
be
and
here,
council.
Mark?
So that will be here, and we will also do it via Zoom. It'll be probably a mixed bag of
Okay.
Zoom versus here. I've told the Knoxville folks they are welcome to come out here as long as we can continue to have proper social distancing and those things in place. So we'll get some out here and we'll have some on Zoom. I think our Confluence partners will be on Zoom,
Okay.
Steve, as will Michael as well. So looking forward to that. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make motion, we adjourn.
Second?
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye,
Johnner.
Aye.
very good, thank you.
Thank you.